Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. It surprised many fans of the COD scene that Kenny is expected to get straight back into a top CDL team next season, despite a very tricky year in Black Ops 6. Individually was better on the rocker, but the team wasn't any good. On OpTic at the start of the season, it was an absolute disaster for the reigning world champion. Kenny though goes into detail yesterday on exactly what happened, why he decided to step away from OpTic to try and help those guys get better and look for newer pastures. In many respects, talking to a brick wall, he reckoned, at the time when he was trying to get through to the team that they had in the improvements they needed to make. But when it wasn't happening, Kenny realized it was better for both parties to go in separate directions. Does this make it more clear why Kenny is still an absolute top candidate for CDL teams? Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. First of all, wanted to start here. This map, if you guys remember it, it's a Black Ops 3 map, so, you know, it's Metro. This was honestly a great map in Black Ops 3. It wasn't played competitively. It had, if you guys remember, the trains would like run down the middle and you could die to them, which is pretty funny. But it was a very symmetrical map. The funny thing is about Metro, you could throw this map in Black Ops 6 and it would actually be competitively played, I'm sure of it. Like, it was, I think, like, Search and Destroy on this map actually wasn't terrible, but anyway, Metro's not coming back. My point is that even maps like Metro, maps like Exodus from BO3, that's the one with the turtle on it, that would actually be played today, because they were just better than what we have today. So, even though they were nowhere near the competitive rotation back then, the point is that Express, BO2 map, that came back in Cold War, if you guys remember, is going to come back again, and it's apparently going to be reminiscent of Metro, as in, I'm imagining the, let's say, visuals, the aesthetics are going to be more similar to Metro than they would be to traditional Express. Sounds pretty exciting to me. I'm down for it to have a serious makeover, especially one that, you know, from a game which had a great art style, as we know back in Black Ops 3. Now, there was also a tournament that concluded yesterday. This was a $20,000 plus tournament. It might have been Canadian dollars, but whatever. Toronto tournament, Bell Canada, the Bell Esports Challenge. Now, I think the rules here were that they had to submit the teams and qualify quite a while ago, but it was a LAN event, as you guys can see, and they had to have 2 Canadian players, and then I think the other 2 maybe didn't have to be Canadian. But MathBeam, this was aBeZy's team. They brought the comeback all the way to, they were 3-1 down, they took it to a Game 7, and then they won in the Game 7. So that was Asim, Mamba, Yuli, and Gunless were on the Omit team, and then MathBeam was Seawads, Neum, Gunsy, and Illy. They made the grand finals, went to a Game 7, but in the end, it was these guys that got the win. So, yeah, Neum, as I say, Seawads, Gunsy, and Illy, they take the championship, and they get the belts and all this. So I think they did a really cool job putting this tournament together. It's kind of maybe, I don't know, there's been lots else happening right now. I imagine that Toronto were maybe expecting Rostomania would have calmed down by now to the point where a tournament like this would have maybe had a bit more interest. But there's still so much going on right now that this was kind of an afterthought. But nonetheless, it's actually a pretty big result maybe just for Illy's future. I don't know, like, people always say, oh, stop talking about Illy and all this. But look, he has won a LAN tournament yesterday, so we are going to mention it. He obviously wants to come back for the new game. Is it going to work? I don't know, we'll see. But Illy says $23,000 Toronto Bell LAN tournament with Gunsy, Seawads, and Neum. So, yeah, congrats to those guys. And we'll see if any of those guys get in. Obviously, Neum played at the World Cup, as we know, on Team War, and maybe has some opportunities in his future. Getting straight back into the league, though, is going to be a challenge. And it's also why I wanted to quickly mention this. This tweet has been doing the rounds, and it's also a general point in the community right now as to Legends. If you guys saw the other day, Legend is rumoured to be potentially getting a CDL spot straight away. Surge are interested, maybe if they sign a particular coach who wants to go and get Legends, otherwise they may not. Gentlemate, I think, probably would have been interested if they didn't form what actually looks on paper to be a pretty good roster. There was even some talk about FaZe, but it's probably too much of a risk. Now, you might say, and you might be right to say, that some of the other players who have made the transition to COD before, they've at least been playing it quite a bit. Like, you know, Shotzzy played a lot of BO4 in the run-up to him actually making the transition to COD for MW19. Whereas the way that the Halo and the COD scenes currently overlap, Legends just playing Halo, really. The World Championships in October for Halo, and then the COD comes out in November, right? So the amount of time to transition isn't so substantial, but, you know, lots of people who watch Halo see that, damn, this Legend guy is incredibly talented. He would make a serious difference in the COD scene if he joins. But I think it's also understandable that if you're a Challengers player, you're out there saying like, damn, I've been cooking in challenges, or I've been beating these guys, I've been grinding my ass off for years, and then this kid from a Halo is just going to come in and get a CDL spot with no experience playing competitive COD at all. It feels a bit unfair, and I get that, but also life isn't fair, right? Like, these things happen, but it would be interesting to see if this happens, to see what some of the reaction would be from the challengers community, because I would totally understand their frustration, but also I'd understand why this is happening, especially given, Legend is a champion, right? And that's true, and we've seen it before, Halo champions coming to COD and having great success, so it's understandable why that would happen, even if it might be particularly frustrating. And also think of somebody like Mercules, who he had a trial for Ravens, a pro team. Don's been talking about on our podcast that he would play against Mercules in challenges, and he was like, yeah, Mercules is okay, but he was nothing special at the time. And I think a large part of that was because Merc had only really just picked up playing Respawn, right? Merc's only played Respawn for a couple of years, and he's improved dramatically over that time period. So the idea of a player with a load of talent but no experience, if he can come in and do a decent job, means that his ceiling is so high that it's going to be difficult for other teams to ignore it, I suppose. That's that piece, but let's talk about Kenny. We saw this the other day. Maniac tweeted or put it in his story. Kenny was here with the OpTic guys. We're like, oh, is he getting spotted with Thieves, or is he sitting down for the process? Turns out he was sitting down for a Flycast episode with Maniac and Hitch, and they talked about a number of topics, but especially, understandably, what we're interested in, what happens with OpTic Texas this most recent season. So Kenny talked about a few angles. The Pred angle as well was pretty interesting. Again, we didn't really get any information on exactly what happened with Pred. I don't know if we ever will. We might get more information at some point on what happened there. I know the Ghost of Hope has said a couple of things that, oh, when this comes out, you guys aren't going to be ready or whatever. Look, we'll see. I'm sure we're going to hear about it eventually. It just may not be anytime soon. And especially while Pred's still competing, I don't really expect that to be the case. So look, we might have to wait a while to get further information on what happened at the start of this season with Pred, because the story is still kind of unclear, but the fans obviously want to know. Whether it's their right to know or not is a different question. But Kenny was struggling individually with the team this season. Huke came in. There was all that drama because when Huke was dropped, Kenny did the stream that kind of implied, oh, well, Huke was making this play, making that play that maybe Kenny wasn't so happy about. But he did discuss a bit on Pred and say that it was just difficult for Pred because he was obviously behind the curve. They decided that they wanted to try bringing him back after bombing out of CDL Major 1 in Madrid in top 8 with Huke in the roster. They thought, we'll try Pred again, but he was behind the curve because he hadn't been playing the game, and Ken was frustrated that they weren't catching up, and maybe he feels in hindsight that he should have given a bit more leeway there, but he was clearly, the frustration was clearly boiling over for Kenny, and he was taking that out on the team, but also understandably so. The team was terrible, so it's understandable that he was frustrated with the way that things went. This is what Kenny has to say, then we'll talk about it a bit more.
I feel like everyone's different, bro. I feel like if that was me, I'd probably get to a point where I'm just depressed. Okay. We lose and there's no passion. And
yeah, he won one tournament. He won one tournament.
I hear that. But no,
so maybe that's why I didn't win more.
But I've seen the passionate version of all of them.
Yeah.
So it's I know how it can get.
Yeah. And
it just felt like everybody just gave up, in my opinion. And I'll give Ant his props. He was always saying just, bro, we're good. It's part of the process. I'm just fuck, but it don't feel like it. Bro, it don't feel like we're getting any better, and we can't win a map. So it's just
so it felt different.
Yeah, it just felt so much different. It just felt like the whole vibe of the room was it's chalk. So I was just texting Damon and JP. I was like, yo, listen, I don't want to do this, but I feel like y'all should try something new. We need a spark. We need something new in the room. Either that be me or somebody else on the team. It just needs to be a different spark. And I think it needs to be me because I'm just bitching at this point every day. I just feel like I'm just bitching. So I think y'all should try something new. And then JP and Damon were just I feel you. I don't know what to say. They didn't really know what to say at the point, and I got a call from JP. He's like, yo, we're going to look a different direction. I'm like, okay, cool. That's cool. I mean, that gives me a mental reset. I have no problem with the boys. It does, for as a leader, it does feel like in the back of my head, I gave up. You know what I mean? I gave up on my boys, but I really, at the time, just didn't feel like I was helping the situation at all. I'm just bringing up so much stuff, and we're not getting better. And it's I'm kind of almost talking to a brick wall. Okay, we're trying to figure out how to play the game. Let's bring this bond back that we had, this champs roster bond, because maybe it pushes us through the bracket. Obviously, Kyle's a great player, talented, It just was like, okay, we can just fit AG into what the fuck we're doing now, and hopefully it clicks again type of thing. Because in our head, we wanted to go back to back.
Yeah.
Because before we even like AG was off the roster, it was automatically like, all right, we're getting Kyler. Like, we're about to win this next event. Like, everything was good. Like, so like the talks about like, oh, let's get this bond back type of thing. It was after we lost. Like, there was no in between while we had Kyler on the team. It was just like, as soon as the loss happened, we went home for a week or two or something like that. And then it started having the conversation of like, yo, should we try AG again? What y'all think? Let's bring him back. Let's get this formula back together. And then like, I obviously, like I said, that's like probably the time where I thought I could have bit my tongue, because I just didn't want to accept the fact that like he was behind.
Right.
I just wanted him to fit in, lock in, listen to how we wanted to play, and he catch up as fast as possible.
Like, you don't want to just accept losses because he's behind.
Yeah, and I should have for sure, but it's just like, I mean, that's like I said, a lot of things I learned about myself this year. I learned a lot, so it's like that's just one thing I think looking forward is like just being more acceptable to like, I guess, stuff that, like I said, not in my control, I guess, because it's like he's behind, but it's not his fault. He was not on the team. But it's like we were losing so many scrims for a good minute. I'm just like, damn, when do we catch up?
And then
I mean?
this is the run that was the 0-18 run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is good insight into what happened at OpTic behind the scenes last year, and I think also gives some indication as to why Kenny is so highly rated as an asset for a team, because this has happened before. I think when he was on Thieves back in Cold War and the team was terrible, Kenny was like, look, if you want to replace me, you know, I'm open to that discussion. Now, not like that's the position you want to be in, as Ken made it pretty clear himself. You know, he feels like maybe as a leader he could have done a better job there, but also there's an argument to say that that's what a leader does when the team is in a difficult spot and it feels like something needs to change, a spark needs to be given. Kenny stepping away, and you know, when we heard about this at the time that Kenny had stepped away, when Hex said it on the whatever it was, a podcast or whether it was just the watch party, that Ken had kind of stepped down rather than get dropped. Look, he may have been dropped eventually anyway, right? And maybe he jumped before he was pushed or whatever. But still, Kenny told the team, like, hey, this isn't working. We're not getting any better. I'm just getting frustrated. I think the point on talking to a brick wall was also kind of interesting, that he was, in his opinion, trying to help, but none of it was working, and maybe that was on him, right? Just getting frustrated, or maybe that was on the team for not listening. I mean, Shotzzy even talked about that really it was just him and Kenny arguing and nobody else said anything, nobody had an opinion, and that was frustrating. And Kenny feels like he was kind of just speaking into a vacuum, right, and getting nothing coming back the other way for them to actually have productive conversations. So Kenny came to the conclusion that, okay, well, this isn't working for me, it's not working for them, so I will tell the team, hey, like, I'm interested in maybe stepping away. And that's quite something to do to OpTic, right? Like, to do it on Thieves back in the day, that's one thing, and that's a big deal. But to do it with OpTic, it's like, you know, like, OpTic is the team. OpTic is the organization that you want to play for. So to voluntarily step down from OpTic because you think that it could be for the best for you, but also for the team and the organization at large, that's, I think, pretty commendable, right? Because you could very easily, given you're on OpTic, be like, well, no, I'm going to stick it out. This is the most important place to be, so I'm not going to give this up. Like, I'm going to hold on to it with both hands, as it were. But Kenny decided that actually, no, it probably makes sense not to do that, and as a result, Kenny's no longer with OpTic, as partly anyway as a result of the decision that he made. But is it going to work out for the best of both parties? Absolutely right. So I think that's probably why it makes sense for Kenny to be considered in such high regard. And yeah, individually he had a very difficult season. Nobody's denying that. But there's a reason why we think that Thieves, at least as a recording, not yet confirmed, but HyDra, Scrap and aBeZy are going to play with Kenny next year. Maybe he wasn't their first choice, maybe they wanted Cellium. But outside of that, you can understand why Kenny is still held in very high regard by his fellow pros, even if his individual level isn't what it used to be. But entreat your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.